In the past several years, numerous journalists have been pulled from their perches over a wide variety of transgressions, from plagiarism to fabrication to sexual harassment. Now comes the question, who deserves a second shot and who is going to give it to them?
I made a mistake.
It's been more than 4 years since Brian Williams lost the NBC Nightly News chair over fabrications and exaggerations in his storytelling.
When you look out of your hotel room window in the French Quarter and watch a man float by face down.
At the time, it seemed very unlikely that Williams would resurface intact.
I wouldn't be surprised if a settlement is being negotiated even as we tape this show.
Except that settlement turned out to be a pretty good deal at MSNBC. Williams has been fronting breaking news and big events.
If you're going to watch one network, we are America's dysfunctional family.
Based on the high ratings his 11th hour show is producing, viewers have forgiven Williams, even though some colleagues are grumbling over his high-profile second chance. Now enter political pundit and author of Game Change, Mark Halperin, who lost several high-profile gigs after a dozen women accused him of sexual harassment.
I'd like to take the opportunity to again apologize to the women that I mistreated.
That's Halperin on a recent radio show before going on to offer political punditry.
Where Bernie Sanders is the nominee on March 1st, a month after Iowa.
Halperin's old pals at MSNBC have softened their hard stance against him, too.
Mark Halperin talked about his own personal situations and the terrible mistakes that he has made, and he addressed them.
But not everyone sees a repeated apology as paving the way for a comeback.
Right. Never once have I been like, where's Mark Halperin? We need his opinions now.
I kind of got to agree.
I have to say I agree. That was the Young Turks, and I have to agree with that. And Mika Brzezinski, for reasons that just escaped me completely, she's saying, oh, and he broke big news this week. He didn't break news. He was punditry. He said Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee. That's not breaking news. That's
it's
just
never broken news.
No, and you know, I'll take people at their word when they apologize for something, but that doesn't mean that they have to come back and do what they were doing before. And, you know, having a high perch on television or radio or something like that. And, you know, Brian Williams, I actually was interested in what you said back then because I was stunned that they gave him that much of an opportunity even then. Probably thinking that he'd disappear off of MSNBC, but he didn't, and he really flew to the top.
He didn't, and you know, I mean, I'll give him credit. He's made the most of it. He's worked very hard, and you know, people have a right to continue to try to make a living. I don't know that they ought to be able to go back to the lofty perch that they had before, but he's at MSNBC. He's not the anchor of the NBC Nightly News, and Mark Halperin is going around flapping his gums. He doesn't have a particularly prominent position at this point, nor does he deserve one, but he has a right to try to make a living.
And I agree that everyone does deserve redemption. You know, people who are put away for killing someone eventually can get out of jail. And so I don't think that, you know, they should be, unless they choose to disappear, if they do want to work, I think they should be allowed to come back. And Dan, you know, I think it is interesting to frame it as he is back at MSNBC, not as lofty as it is being at Nightly News. And in some ways, that could be a punishment, right? I mean, you're back, and every day you have to realize, I'm not doing the Nightly Newscast. That, to me, is even more punishment and more torture than if you just disappeared and sat on a beach somewhere. And he could do it. He has the money to do that. I do, though... I do take seriously when someone who has been the victim of some of these people, whether it's, you know, Halperin and some of the things that he did to women, if they feel that it's too soon for these kinds of people to come back in high positions or public positions, then I think they have a right to feel that way, and I respect that.
There's also nothing in Mark Halperin's apologies that I've read that indicates to me that he has any sense of what he's done and what the problem was, and any real, you know, sense of remorse. I don't know. It's kind of like I'm learning. That's rich to me when these guys come up and they're like, I'm learning that what I did was wrong, and I'm still working through it. You know, I mean, I agree with you. Brian Williams is paying some version of a penance. I mean, ooh, poor guy. He has an 11 p.m. show on national cable television, but it's some version of a penance. Halperin has a longer way to go in my book.
Right. Y'all don't know the steps of redemption, clearly. And the first would be acknowledging your hurt and harm. Let's just check out 12-step programs. the first thing you have to do is go to the persons, to their face, and say, I did this. I accept responsibility. Oh, no.
No,
come on. Those women have said no.
Well, Brian
he is
Williams
not,
did
no,
do
no,
that
I'm
by
talking
going
about
public
Mark
there.
Halperin.
Okay.
He said nothing.
No.
He's popped up saying he's
they did try to set up a meeting and they didn't want to do it, which is understandable.
No. That was Mika Brzezinski saying it would be nice if they did it. That's not Mark Halperin doing his own thing. I'm sorry. Let's go back to 12 step. That's me. That's my responsibility. I do the effort. There's no so buffer here. I say I'm wrong. And then after those steps happen, then we get to redemption. None of that has happened on the path of Mark Halperin. Now, lucky for him, friends in high places, he can yammer on as much as he likes about nonsense and still be given a place when people are out here busting their butts every day doing good work, as that young woman said. Have you missed him? I haven't. No. Let's get some other smart people to talk about this who are available, who didn't have to apologize, who didn't put their hands on somebody, and who gets the definition of an apology. Mr. Smarty Pants should know that.
Wow.
That's right.
I'm not going to church on Sunday.
And I think it's important to point out that Mark Halperin isn't really back. I don't really.
No, he's not back.
No.
He's trying to come back.
He's on the path. He's on the path.
Well, I would block his path.
Well, you would, but other people are not. Yeah.
Shimon Kanish has a big audience.
Thank you. Yeah. And so does, Joe and Mika.
All right.